going to make French onion soup chicken. So what I'm doing is I'm starting out with the chicken, and my daughter loves her chicken trimmed very, very well. She does not like any little piece of any foreign matter on her chicken. So she likes it completely trimmed, completely clean, and she also likes it very thin. Now, one of the things I'm going to tell you is I am not a trained chef. I have been cooking for a very, very long time, and I learned from my mother. And my mother was a fabulous, fabulous cook. She could make anything. She could taste something in a restaurant and replicate it. She could taste every flavor in it and copy that recipe when she came home. So everything I've learned to do, I've learned from her. I don't think I'm as good as she was, but I tried. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chicken cutlets, and again, we like them thin, so I'm going to pound them down and make them thin because I don't like a thick chicken cutlet. Now I take one chicken cutlet and I get 2 pieces out of it. So technically in my house, this recipe, I have 4 chicken cutlets, could feed 8 people. Not going to happen again in my house, but we will have plenty of leftovers that I will send to the other siblings. My son and my daughter-in-law love to take all my food. They love everything that I have left over. So just pound down the chicken cutlets to your desired thickness. What we have now is a cast iron pan. Almost all the time I cook, I will use cast iron. If you see, I have a cast iron griddle. I have my cast iron pan. But what I like about it is that I can take this, because this recipe goes from the stovetop into the oven to finish it off. And I'm going to add some olive oil. You can tell if the pan is hot enough if the olive oil starts to smoke a little bit, which it isn't. So I didn't get my pan quite hot enough, but we'll let it sit for a couple of minutes while it heats up, because I like to have a very, very hot pan.
And then coat the bottom of the cast iron pan.
It is maybe 14. Want me to measure it?
Well, I don't care. I'm just saying. I mean, I'm going to get this cast iron pan when you die, so it'll be mine. I don't have to worry about the measurements.
You see how this is separating here, the olive oil? That's when you know it's starting to get hot in there. You see that?
Yes, I see that.
Okay, so that's when it's getting hot. So I'm going to let that heat up a little bit longer. And then what I'm going to do is take the chicken cutlets. I'm going to season them with salt, a little bit of salt and pepper. Just sprinkle a little bit over the top. And then I'm going to turn them over and sprinkle some on both sides, because that's what I do.
Are you just using a fork for the people? Would you normally use your hands?
Yes. Yes, I do. I use my hands all the time.
Same with the parchment paper? Is that just for the parchment paper?
Yes, it is.
So normally we would just clean the salmonella off the surfaces.
No. I do use this, and usually what I do is put it on a plate, so I don't, it doesn't touch my counter. I just put it on, I cut it on my cutting mat, and then I put it on a plate after I cut it, so that I don't have it all laid out like that.
And what am I preheating the oven to?
Well, the oven I put on broil.
Oh.
Because I'll show you that at the end. But what happens is all the cooking is done in here, and then once it's all assembled, it goes in the oven to just brown the cheese on and melt the cheese on the top.
Oh.
Okay, so that's why I do that. So everything is done on the stovetop with this. See the pan smoking? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the chicken into the pan. And this I do. I don't try to put them too close together, because you want them to cook, and you don't want them to be touching, because you want them to cook all the way around. And all I do is just for a few minutes on each side, a couple of minutes on each side, because I don't want them to get chopped, and they're going to go into the oven later. So I just want to get them browned a little bit on each side. I actually have it on a high heat.
High heat.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I do. I just get them so that they're a little brown. You see how they shrink? I could have pounded them a little bit more. How they shrink when they're cooking. Just to give you an example, years ago, I made hot peppers in this, and we cooked the hot peppers, and all of you know what those are like. So the peppers were very hot. It was in the pan. After the pan was washed, the next day my mother made pancakes, and Joe said, "Nanny, these pancakes are hot," and she said, "Blow on them. They're not hot." And he said, "No, Nanny, they're hot. They're burning my mouth." And she kept saying, "No, they're not hot. Just blow on them." And then she tasted them. Well, he didn't understand the difference between hot and spicy, but he had very spicy pancakes.
That's funny. All right, so when your chicken is browned on both sides.
Yeah, I don't make it dark. I just, because I like...
So it's not cooked all the way through.
No, it isn't. It will be, though, because you'll see what I'm going to do with it after. Okay, for this recipe, I use 2 onions per person, so I have 6 onions here that I'm going to cut up. I peel the onions and then I slice them thinly, and do that with all 6 onions. Now, when I make French onion soup, of course, I use a lot of onions in that. We're not eating this in a spoon. This is going to be a little thicker. I'm not going to eat it with a fork because the chicken is in it. We don't use a lot of spices in our cooking, so you'll see when I cook, I don't use a lot of spices. I let the meats and the things speak for themselves. When measuring, you know, I really have a lot of problems with measurements.
Yeah, we know.
Normally I start with an onion for 2 onions for every person. But, you know what, looking at the amount of onions I have here, I may not do that today.
So would you say maybe like a handful?
No.
2 handfuls?
My hands are small.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go by that. I can't go by handfuls. You have larger hands. So I can't do that. I do use 4 tablespoons of butter. And I put the butter right into the same pan, because what's going to happen is whatever is on the bottom of that pan is going to come up. So I put
Deglaze.
It is deglazing the pan. Yep.
I learned that on the Food Network.
Do I have to use the technical terms?
No.
Because I know them.
I'm just showing how smart I am.
Oh, okay. Feel free to interject at any time.
Yeah. You're not going to see me on the other end of these food videos.
And then I put it in the onions and I caramelize the onions. Our onions are nice and soft, browned, caramelized. I love onions like this.
They smell so good.
They do. We're going to take sherry. I never cook with cooking wines. I use wines that I drink. So whatever is good, whatever you like to drink, you use to cook with. Because if you wouldn't drink with it, why would you eat it? Because who doesn't like a sherry in their onion soup? Oh, look at that. You see how that has picked up all the color from the pan, from the onions browning. We've got that butter in there. Just a little more, a little splash. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour some beef broth. Now, if I had cooked anything with beef or made anything, I would have made my own beef stock. But I always keep beef broth in the house because I don't always have a chance to do that. So I'm going to add the beef broth, let the pan get a little bit hotter.
How large is that container of beef broth?
I'm not going to use the whole thing. This one is 48 ounces. I'm going to use about half of it. Again, because we don't have a lot of people. So I'm going to use about half of it. I don't add any flour or any thickening agent in this. I just let this cook down a little bit. Doesn't that look delicious?
It smells even better.
Yeah, it does smell great. Now some may question, why do you use beef broth instead of chicken broth?
That is a good question.
Right? I just found that the flavor is there from the chicken soup, from the onion soup. That when you make onion soup, you use beef broth or beef stock when I make a good onion soup. So I use that. Okay, so now I'm going to take the chicken and I'm going to put the chicken on top of that. And this is why the chicken doesn't get cooked through, because you're going to allow the chicken to cook now. And then I'm going to cover it and let it simmer probably for about 15 to 20 minutes. So this has been cooking now for about 20 minutes. And it's been, I turned it down a little lower so it wouldn't boil, though it is bubbling. And now what I'm going to do is turn the stove off and I'm going to add cheese on top. Now if you notice, when I was assembling all of this, I did not add any more salt or pepper. The salt or pepper only went on the chicken in the beginning, but because of the amount of salt in the broth and the amount of the salt in the cheeses, I don't add any additional salt. Quite frankly, I don't add a lot of salt into anything I do. I do put salt in my recipes, but I don't add a lot of extra salt to things. The products have enough salt. Why am I using mozzarella instead of Gruyere, which you would normally use in a French onion soup? We like it. We like mozzarella cheese. We don't like Gruyere as much. Once I cover the top, I am going to put it in the broiler and just let it broil until the cheese melts and gets a little bit browned on the top, and it's done. I haven't tried this yet, but I often wonder whether I could put a thin layer of crusty Italian bread over it before putting the cheese on it, whether that would be delicious. I think it would be, but I haven't tried it yet. Maybe the next time I make it, I'll try it. Right now, we haven't been able to get any good crusty Italian bread. So until the next time, enjoy.